It's been a fair while since Tears of the Kingdom launched. In just a few short days, it set new sales records for the whole franchise. It seems like fans all over the world has been busy enjoying themselves exploring Hyrule in the sky and underground. And I'm right there with you, having already spent 150 hours night after night exploring the world one more time. Given the time I've spent playing this game, I am pleasantly surprised by just how good the game is. But at the same time, as many steps as it takes forward over Breath of the Wild, some of them aren't as clean-cut. And with that, I'm left pondering, what went wrong with Tears of the Kingdom? If you have a minute to spare, then consider subscribing and liking the video if you're a fan of this kind of content. So, first of all, I actually really like Tears of the Kingdom, and it is a clear improvement over Breath of the Wild in every single way. Regardless of that, I want to remain realistic and not let my clear Zelda franchise love shift my opinion in any way. Now, when asking the question of what went wrong with something, we first have to understand what went right. And in Tears of the Kingdom's case, there's a lot to go over. This will be the one spoiler warning for the video, as I will be discussing the places and events that take place in the game. So if you want to keep yourself unspoiled, then come back here after you've played a lot of the game. Starting off with the world itself, being able to not only roam the same Hyrule from before, but slightly revamped alongside the sky and depths, is a phenomenal treat. All the areas mesh well, and moving from one to the other isn't a hassle. As such, the general flow of the gameplay is really well balanced. It's nice that Hyrule itself changed, which really shows time has passed since Breath of the Wild. People even seem to know who Link is around the world, which helps make the whole world far more immersive. Speaking about the new areas for a moment, the sky is a natural evolution of what Skyward Sword did way back in 2011, minus the bird. Most islands feature some kind of puzzle or goodie to get, so I rarely feel like I waste my time by going to explore them. Although, if anything, their actual structure feels less natural and more gamey. You know, with the hub islands having that little piston thing and item dispenser. Makes me wonder where the island really came from on the ground originally, since there's no obvious cutout on the actual surface. Ultimately, that's a small nitpick. If anything, I'd like a lot more of the big sky islands. Now in contrast, the depths are an interesting case. You see, the first time I went down there, I was stunned by this dark, mysterious world right before my feet. Lighting the place up revealed more of the alien or Ghibli-like nature, which I enjoyed immensely. But as I kept exploring, I quickly noticed the whole place kinda looks the same for the most part. And on top of that, it is generally empty aside from monsters and bosses roaming around, as well as the mining facilities. Oh, and the Yiga fortresses every now and then, but they go by so fast I really don't know if I like them or not. Regardless, it's still fun to soar around in the darkness finding your way to the next light route. However, I can feel like there's a little too many of them. For instance, why is this lonely little light route necessary here? Was it necessary to have one more? I guess the reason why there are so many of them might be to have more warp points. But even then, there's so many on the surface you can easily take one of them and jump down. Gameplay-wise then, Tears of the Kingdom is a natural evolution of the Breath of the Wild formula, which, I stated earlier, is better in every way. You get all the stuff from before, but the addition of the fuse mechanic and Ultra Hand go a long way to making the player actually manage items in the best way. Furthermore, the amount of weird creative shrine puzzles and such I face due to the Ultra Hand is really something else. It's such a good feeling when you solve some puzzle with some idea you made yourself. More often than not, I find myself doing the little silent, "Yeah, I'm so smart," after completing some of the building shrine puzzles. Long story short, if you liked the Breath of the Wild gameplay, then you'll love the Tears of the Kingdom one. Presentation-wise, the game's graphics do seem to have improved slightly in my eyes. Draw distance, textures, and lighting all seem a bit better. It's also a huge plus that this game focuses a lot more on story than Breath of the Wild did, which has the added effect of making the game feel more complete as a whole package. So, the world is really beautiful, the gameplay is very fun, and the added focus on story is a huge welcome. So what the hell am I going on about when I ask what went wrong? Oh boy. Starting things off in a bombastic fashion. Wow, Tears of the Kingdom is incredibly repetitive. Let's break it down. While the triumphant return of the temples, yeah, I use that word lightly, is a good thing, they are extremely underwhelming and pretty much play around the same boring gimmick. Find 5 switches and fight a boss. That in itself would be fine if the temples themselves had some depth and actually posed some challenge. Spoilers, they don't. But I'll come back to that later. Shrines are a mixed bag. There are 3 kinds of shrines. The really good ones that take some thought to get through, the short and underwhelming ones that are over in 2 minutes max, and then there's Raru's Blessing. Yeah, for the majority of the game, the shrines are either short and underwhelming or Raru's crappy blessing. Every now and then one of the good ones pop up, but man, it's not often. Raru's Blessing is a type of shrine where you go in and grab the prize just like that. No challenge whatsoever. And to be fair, the whole idea behind Raru's Blessing shrines are that the challenge is supposed to be getting into the shrine. That can be done by either transporting a big crystal to the shrine location or by doing some other challenge. Bringing the crystal to the shrine location is admittedly kind of fun, but the same cannot be said for some of the other shrines. The problem is that most of the time, the so-called challenges are incredibly underwhelming. 1 or 2 Raru's Blessing wouldn't be so bad, but I mean there's at least 20-something of them. Shrine after shrine either being short and underwhelming or nothing at all is not fun. It is quantity over quality in the highest degree. It's kinda like the Mario Odyssey effect, with there being 900 moons. We don't need all of these dumb shrines and Koroks all over the place. It is just mindless repetition. Scale down the game and make some actually high quality dungeons and shrines. And see, this point of repetition is a perfect segue to talking about the world of Tears of the Kingdom. This is a problem that existed in Breath of the Wild as well, and that's that the world is too darn big. Yeah. To put it simply, everything looks and plays the same. Alright, can we all agree on this? No? Well, what if you ask yourself, what's so good about this part of the depths rather than this part? Or maybe this part that also looks the exact same? Or get this, what about helping a Korok up a hill here, and then helping another one up a hill over here? Or what if we mix it up and have you fight a monster fortress filled with no unique enemies here, and then do the exact same thing over here? Starting to catch on? The depths and the normal overworld are big for the sake of being big. There is no other way to put it. No amount of short, underwhelming shrines or Korok in between will make the trip from one part of the map to another any more fun. But the main appeal of open world Zelda is exploration, right? Like, at least in my own experience, when I see some point of interest, I begin to imagine what might await me there. What kind of reward, or whatever you want to call it, I can expect to find. Imagine then the absolute underwhelming feeling I get when I climb some big-ass mountain or travel a far distance and the reward ends up being another Korok or Raru's crappy blessing. Talking about the shrines for a moment again, most of the underwhelming ones are underwhelming because they are so short. Not that the gimmick of the shrine is bad or whatever. Nothing gets more than 2 minutes in the spotlight before it's never seen again. There's no time for anything to actually develop. Like, I remember some shrine where I had to build a big hammer thing to hit balls into switches, and another one where I had to open trapdoors to fall down to sublevels. Just as a quick little idea here, what about cutting 10 of the shrines in order to make a mini dungeon that uses one of these ideas far more, and then place it wherever you want, like, why not in the depths? There's barely anything down there anyway. All of these ideas I see in so many of the shrines just feel so underdeveloped and I guess like a waste of an idea since I know it probably never shows up in the game again. And to finally touch on this, the temples. Man, you wouldn't believe the smile on my face as I finally managed to get all the way up to the Wind Temple for the first time. Man, was I let down. The place looked cool, for sure, but there was something missing. And that's the actual temple structure. For what it's worth, the temple was a big hollow rock with switches defined in it. And to top it all off, I could cheese my way through a lot of it using the dive ability. But hey, the boss at the end looked very cool, and the music was pretty much perfect. It was just a shame that it was so darn easy. The lightning and fire temple were a lot better, with some actual thinking involved in order to successfully clear them, as well as their location made sense. Now, what the crap happened to the water temple? Why is it so incredibly short? Why is the boss awful? And why is it in the sky when there's an empty-ass ocean in the corner of the map? Long story short, the traditional temple structure doesn't really work with this type of free Zelda. They are by nature designed around the limitations of the older games. Now, the one exception to this whole World of Rant thing is the Sky Islands, easily the best areas of Tears of the Kingdom, since there's stuff on them and they aren't filled with meaningless fluff for most of the time. So I'm not saying the Tears of the Kingdom world is empty, no. I'm saying it's filled with wasted potential and a whole lot of repeating the exact same thing wherever you look. Now, if that made you feel a little bad, I'm sorry. But there's actually some good to come when I talk about the story. So, we've talked a lot about the gameplay and world, but I mentioned in the beginning that Tears of the Kingdom is more story-heavy than Breath of the Wild. That was no lie. It absolutely is. Although, that's not a very high bar to reach. Without spoiling anything outright, there's more story, more cutscenes, and character interactions. My one gripe with this is once again that you have to look for the story. And before you say anything, yes, it's nice to have something other than shrines and corks to look forward to in world exploration. Because if you didn't know, just like you found Zelda's memories in Breath, you find these memory flashback in Tears. So the problem is that there is a specific order of the flashbacks, but more than likely you won't get them in that order. Now, you can follow an optional quest line to get the correct order, but it's rather easy to miss and forget as you're playing. Seeing them out of order breaks a lot of the tension that's trying to be built up. You'll most likely see one of the last cutscenes first, and who thinks that's fun? It's like being spoiled on the ending of a new movie. Like, I imagine most of you hate that, right? Of course, there's always one goofball who enjoys seeing clips out of order, but that ain't me, Chief. So, I'm left with a weird feeling. I like that there's more story here, but the presentation of it, if you will, is lacking. For real, one of the first flashbacks I got was the Demon King Resurrected one, and I didn't even know who Sonia was at the time. So I just sat there and was like, man, this sure looks cool. But who are you again? It goes against basic storytelling, having a nice red thread to follow, right? And the worst part is that Zelda never had this problem before this weird obsession with huge open worlds for the sake of being huge. Aside from the presentation then, the story itself is actually very interesting. There's a lot of stuff that happens. The characters are very nice to see in action and what they have to say. There's a huge amount of those notepads to read even more lore from around the world, and as before, I find the voice acting to be very good. Hey, plus points for making Gandalf the English voice of Trafalgar Law. The final verdict on the story is, it's good, but presented in a very unsatisfying way. So, what's left to talk about then? Well, since I know someone will mention it, the stamina and weapon durability are here just as before. I don't like them. I don't see how they make the game any more fun in any way. But just because I don't like it, it doesn't mean it's bad. Now, the other things I've said in this bad section are absolutely bad, but yeah. Ultimately, I hope you watching this understands that just because I point out flaws with the game doesn't mean I hate it. I'm looking at this from a player point of view and as a person who has done game design work. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is a good game. Again, much better than Breath ever was. But I think for me at least, because of these reasons I stated above, such as the repetitive nature of the game, the lack of any real depth into dungeons, the flat-out wasted potential on a lot of the shrine gimmicks, and a lack of real Zelda feel, I would say makes this game one of those that will be tough to justify going back to. Playing it once is absolutely something I can say everyone with a Switch should do, since the absolute best part is exploring the world not knowing anything. but I really struggle to see a reason to jump back into such a repetitive, underwhelming experience again. But hey, that's just me. Maybe you found the movement or the building aspect so much fun you'll continue to build stuff indefinitely without any real goal. Buy the game if you haven't. As you can tell based on the length of the video, this took quite some time to make. So if you enjoy this kind of honest look at a game, then please subscribe and ring that little notification bell. Consider joining the Discord as well to stay up to date with the upcoming streams and info. Thanks for sticking around.